Avastar. Bending bones.
Hello and welcome. Today we begin examining the Avastar model in more detail. However, in this video I focus just on the armature, while the next video will be dedicated to the character mesh model. I separated these two topics on purpose, so that you do not get overwhelmed with new concepts all at once. And I chose to begin with the armature because this is truly the base of everything. So let's jumpstart into the topic. Open Blender and add a new Avastar model to the scene by navigating to Add Avastar. Complete. After a few moments the Second Life character appears. What you see here is the original avatar, precisely as it is defined in the virtual world. And we made sure it contains all its little peculiarities. The most important part of the character is its rig, which, in Blender terms, is also named armature. The armature is the set of green shapes and lines which are arranged around the gray avatar body. But today we will ignore the mesh body and get back to it in the next video. By the way, if you wonder how I move around in the viewport, then here are a few little tricks. Use the scroll wheel of your mouse for zooming in and out. When you click the wheel while dragging the mouse, then you can pan around the object. And when you want to focus on something, first select it. Then press the dot on the number pad to refocus the display. Now panning and zooming is centered on the selected part. Now, let's get back to the topic. So, what are those shapes and what can we do with them? Well, those shapes are the Avastar Animation skeleton. Maybe it's a good idea to change the display style of the skeleton, so you can better see what I mean. You see this little symbol in the upper right corner of the viewport? When you click on it, then the sidebar panel opens up. And this is where we have placed most of the Avastar functions. To begin with, click on the vertical Avastar tab and open the rig display panel. Oh, here is another little gotcha. Sometimes the sidebar is a bit too narrow or it might take away too much space on the viewport. When this happens, then we can widen it up or narrow it down as follows. Hover over the sidebar's left border until a double-sided arrow appears. Then click and drag the border sideways. So, back in the display style section, we now can disable the option, shape. And if you like, then you also can change the bone style from stick to octahedral. In any case you now see the Avastar Animation skeleton in T-pose. The armature is separated into the sections, torso, arms and legs, face, hands and a few others. And you can hide or show each section separately. So, let's hide the hands and face bones for a moment. Now it is time to explain more precisely what you can actually do with this skeleton. Its main purpose is to pose and animate the mesh character. Let's create a pose as follows. Select one of the arm leaf bones. Then press the G key on the keyboard and drag the bone around by moving the mouse. You also can pan around the model and then continue moving the bone until it is positioned where you want it to be. Let's switch the bone display style back to shapes. And now you see a little better what benefit comes with bone shapes. It simply becomes a lot easier to select the bones. But note, this is just a display style. The bones do not behave any way different when you switch to bone shapes. Of course the bones can also be rotated. For doing this, you select the bone, for example the neck, then hit the R key on the keyboard. Now drag the mouse to rotate the bone. And finally left-click to release the bone from the mouse. You also can hit the R key then immediately hit the Y key twice. Now the rotation is constrained around the bone's long axis. Here is one more caveat, sometimes a bone does not rotate as you want. Look for example at the wrist bones. It is impossible to rotate them more than a few degrees until they begin to flip-flop around like crazy. This behavior is caused by rotation limits, and you even can see them. They are indicated by curves which are colorized in green, red and blue. If the curves disturb you, then you can hide them by disabling the limits option in the rig display. And occasionally you not only want to hide the limits, but you also want to disable the limits completely. Click on the white circle right besides the limits button. Now the bone rotates freely. Now, let's take a closer look at the face section. Here we see how handy bone shapes can be. All those dots on the face actually are bones as well. Now see how it looks when we change the display style back to octahedral, and then disable shapes. There is not much to say. I guess you agree that we better re-enable shapes right away. Of course you can move and rotate each of the face bones separately. However, you will quickly figure out that moving single face bones is a tedious job. So we have added a face control rig for you. So what is this? In the rig display, unhide the IK face section. Now you see a little cube in front of the mouse. This is the main face controller. You can select and move it. You see that the yellow curve in front of the lips also moves along with the cube, but nothing else changes. To actually see something happen, you will need to enable the face controller. And now the lips move along with the cube when you push the cube around in the scene. Now let's hide the face bones and only keep the face controller visible. You now can better see the other parts of the controller. For example, you can grab each of the yellow balls and move them or rotate them until the face expression is set to your likes. You see that using the face controller is by far easier than moving the bones separately. Here is one more tip. Once in a while you might have managed to get the bones into some disorder. When that happens, you always can select one or multiple bones. Then reset all rotations by typing Alt-R. And you reset all movements by using Alt-G. Also, when you hit the A key repeatedly, then you can toggle the select state of all bones. So, to reset your entire visible rig, you might want to type the A key, then Alt-R, followed by Alt-G. This will set your selected bones back to normal. We have added another little detail that may be interesting for you when you later want to make more complicated face animations. That is, the eye focus bone. Let's unhide this bone in the rig display panel. Now you will find the eye target about 1 meter away from the avatar face. This focus point is where the eyes look at by default. Let me move the focus towards the face and see what the eye bones do. You see, when I move the eye target close to the nose, then the eyes begin to cross. And when I move the target to the right or left, or up and down, then the eyes will follow as well. Of course you can disable the eye target. Then the eyes can be rotated freely. So far we only have looked at the so-called animation bones of the human avatar. These bones are only used for posing and animating the character. And here is one caveat: in the old basic skeleton we have colorized all animation bones with a nice green color. But for the bento rig we decided to use more than one color on the face area, such that we can more easily distinguish the different bone groups. So actually not all animation bones are green, although we talk about the green animation bones all over the place. Well, we are not yet at the end. Avastar has a few more bones to offer. First of all bento bones are supported, of course. That is, we have wing bones, tail bones, and hind bones in the skeleton. Those bones are hidden by default. Avastar also comes with 4 extra spine bones. We will talk about those later. They also are hidden by default. Furthermore, we provide a complete set of deform bones. Those bones become important when we introduce rigging and binding meshes to the armature. I will talk about the deform bones in the next video. Then we have attachment points. Those are also bones, but in Second Life they are only used for defining the locations where attachments can be added. We do not talk about those bones unless we get forced to. Let's make a cut here, as by now I have already touched so many parts of the rig that I fear you get exhausted. If you still are here with me, then thank you for watching.
Avastar.